Before you listen any further, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Because what you are about to hear is not random. It is not coincidence. It is not just another message. You were led here, and God says to you today with certainty, "My child, what I am about to do in your life will happen so fast. Not slowly, not gradually, not after years of waiting, but suddenly, swiftly, unexpectedly." God says you have been in a long waiting season. You've waited patiently. You've endured quietly. You've prayed faithfully. You've believed even when nothing around you changed. There were moments you wondered if heaven heard you. Moments you questioned your faith. Moments you felt forgotten. Moments you felt left behind. But God says, "I saw every tear. I heard every prayer. I counted every night you cried in silence." The waiting was not punishment, it was preparation. Because what God is about to release cannot be handled by a rushed heart or an unprepared spirit. But now, you are ready, and God says, the waiting season is ending. God says, what I am bringing will move quickly. You expected your breakthrough to come step by step. You thought things would change slowly. You assumed healing would take years. You believed restoration would be gradual. But God says, not this time. Because some miracles are not designed to unfold slowly. Some blessings are released suddenly. Some doors open all at once. God says, when I move fast. What you have been praying for is already in motion. What you thought was far away is much closer than you realize. And when it arrives, you will barely have time to process it. God says, you will look back and say, how did this change so quickly? There will be a moment soon when you pause and realize that your life no longer looks the same. Your mindset will change. Your environment will change. Your opportunities will change. Your peace will change. Your confidence will change. Your direction will change. And you will say, just yesterday I was struggling. How did everything shift so fast? God says, that is my acceleration. What took years to break will take moments to restore. God says, I was working even when you saw nothing while you thought nothing was happening. God was rearranging things behind the scenes. He was removing what would block you, protecting you from what you couldn't see, preparing people you haven't met yet, aligning opportunities you didn't know existed, setting the stage for sudden favor. God says, I work best in silence. Just because you didn't see movement doesn't mean heaven was still. And now the unseen work is about to become visible. A story to help you understand this season. There was a man who waited years for rain. Every season felt dry. Every field looked empty. Every prayer felt unanswered. Then one night, clouds gathered suddenly. Thunder rolled. Rain poured heavily. By morning, the land was transformed. The dryness that lasted years was replaced in a single night. God says to you, your drought is ending like this. What felt permanent will change overnight. God says, this blessing will not require struggle. You struggled long enough. You fought hard enough. You carried more than your share. God says, the next blessing will come with ease. Not because you earned it, but because He ordained it. Doors will open without force. Help will come without begging. Answers will arrive without confusion. This is grace. This is favor. This is divine speed. God says, people will be shocked by how fast you rise. Some people saw you when you were low. They saw your pain. They saw your confusion. They saw your silence. But they won't recognize you soon. God says, I am lifting you quickly. People who doubted you will suddenly respect you. People who ignored you will suddenly notice you. People who underestimated you will suddenly ask how you did it. And you will know, this was not human effort. This was God. God says, do not fear the speed of the blessing. Sometimes fast change feels scary. You might think, am I ready? Can I handle this? What if it's too much? But God says, if I bring it quickly, I will also give you the strength to carry it. You are not stepping into this alone. God is walking ahead of you. Trust the speed. Trust the process. Trust the one who is leading you. God says, your obedience has unlocked this moment every time you chose faith over fear. Every time you didn't give up. Every time you trusted God instead of people. Every time you stayed soft in a hard season. It all counted. God says, your obedience unlocked acceleration, and now heaven is responding. Final message for part 1. My child, you have waited long enough. You have endured long enough. You have believed long enough. Now watch me move. What I am about to do will not take years, will not take months, will not take long. It will come suddenly. It will come clearly. It will come powerfully. This will happen so fast. Prepare your heart. The shift has begun. You are not imagining the urgency you feel. You are not overthinking the restlessness in your spirit. You are not wrong for sensing that something is about to change, because heaven is moving closer. And God says to you again today, my child, what I am about to do will happen so fast. Part 2 is a continuation of the acceleration already in motion. What began quietly is about to become undeniable. God says, the shift has already started. You may not see it yet in your circumstances, but you can feel it inside you. Your patience is thinner, your tolerance for nonsense is lower, your desire for peace is stronger, your hunger for purpose is deeper. That's because you are already transitioning. God says, I always change you on the inside before I change your life on the outside. The shift started in your spirit. Now it is moving into your reality. And once it begins, it does not slow down. God says, what felt stuck will begin to move rapidly. There were areas of your life that felt frozen. No progress, no answers, no momentum. You tried, you waited, you prayed, you let go. And now God says, movement is returning. Things will start aligning quickly. Conversations will open doors. Small moments will create big changes. One decision will unlock many outcomes. This will not feel gradual. It will feel sudden. You'll notice things working out that never worked before. God says, I am collapsing time for you. There are things you thought would take years. Healing you assumed would take forever. Restoration you thought was far away. Success you believed required long struggle. But God says, I am compressing time. What normally takes years will take weeks. What normally takes months will take days. What normally takes effort will take favor. This is divine acceleration. Not because you forced it, but because the season demands it. God says, you are about to receive multiple answers at once. You didn't just pray one prayer. You prayed many. You prayed for peace. You prayed for direction. You prayed for provision. You prayed for healing. You prayed for clarity. You prayed for change. God says, I am answering in clusters. Instead of one thing at a time, you will see multiple breakthroughs overlapping. While one area heals, another opens. While one door closes, another welcomes you in. While one burden lifts, another blessing arrives. This will happen so fast that you'll barely finish thanking God for one miracle before another appears. A story to show you how God moves quickly. There was a woman who waited for years to leave a difficult place. Every plan failed. Every attempt collapsed. Every opportunity vanished. Then one ordinary day, a conversation she almost skipped changed everything. Within weeks, she had a new direction, new support, new peace, new life. And she said, nothing happened for a year, and then everything happened at once. God says, this is the pattern of my acceleration. Long preparation, sudden release. You are at the release stage. God says, do not be afraid of how fast things change. When things move quickly, fear sometimes whispers, this is too good to be true. What if I lose it? What if I can't handle it? But God says, I would not move fast if I did not trust you with the blessing. Speed does not mean chaos. Speed means readiness. If God brings it fast, He has already prepared you. Trust His pace. God says, people will notice the change before you do. Others will see it first. They'll say, you seem different. You look lighter. You sound confident. Your life is moving. You may still feel like you, still healing, still growing. But God says, my favor is becoming visible. And when it becomes visible, things move even faster. Favor attracts favor. Momentum creates momentum. God says, what once drained you will no longer touch you. The things that exhausted you, the conversations, the environments, the responsibilities, the emotional weight, God says they are losing access to you. Not slowly, not painfully, suddenly. You'll wake up one day and realize you no longer feel heavy. You'll notice peace where stress once lived. You'll see clarity where confusion ruled. This release will happen fast. God says, this acceleration is not for everyone. It is for you. Not everyone experiences divine speed. Not everyone is trusted with sudden blessing. But you were faithful in the slow season. You stayed soft in the hard season. You trusted God when nothing made sense. God says, that is why I am moving quickly now. This is not luck. This is alignment. God says, stay ready. Do not return to old thinking. When things move fast, the temptation is to go back to survival thinking. But God says, do not shrink your expectations. Think bigger, trust deeper, receive fully. Your life is changing. Your season is shifting. Your pace is increasing, and you must move with it. Final message for part 2. My child, do not doubt the speed of what I am doing. What felt impossible is becoming inevitable. What felt far is now near. What felt delayed is now released. Stay open, stay obedient, stay trusting. Because the change coming into your life will not take long. It will happen suddenly, it will happen clearly, it will happen powerfully. This will happen so fast. There are seasons when God prepares you slowly, teaching patience, building endurance, shaping character. But then there comes a moment when preparation is complete, when heaven decides, enough waiting, when God steps in with authority and says, my child, now watch how fast I move. Part 3 is that moment, because the acceleration you sensed in part 2 is now becoming visible. God says, what took years to form will manifest in days. You think progress must always be slow because that's how you experience life. But God says, I am not limited by human timelines. What took years to form inside you, wisdom, strength, faith, discernment, patience, will now produce results very quickly. That is why this season feels intense. That is why everything seems to be lining up suddenly. That is why doors are appearing where walls once stood. God says, the inner work is done. Now comes the outward reward. This will happen so fast because heaven has already invested enough time in you. God says, you are about to move from hidden to visible. For a long time you were unseen, not ignored, hidden. Hidden while you healed. Hidden while you learned. Hidden while you were protected. Hidden while God refined you. You wondered why others were noticed before you, why opportunities skipped your name, why your efforts felt invisible. But God says, I hid you so I could prepare you. Now the hiding season is ending. Visibility is coming, recognition is coming, acknowledgement is coming, and it won't come slowly. This will happen so fast that people will say, where did this come from? And God will say, from preparation you never saw. God says one moment will change your direction. Sometimes God doesn't change your life with many events. Sometimes He does it with one conversation, one call, one idea, one decision, one instruction, one opportunity. God says, I am about to use one moment to redirect your entire path. Your future will not change gradually, it will pivot. You'll look back and realize, that moment changed everything. And it will happen fast. Before fear has time to speak, before doubt has time to rise, before hesitation can interfere. God says, stop measuring your future by your past. Your past trained you to expect struggle, to brace for delay, to anticipate disappointment. But God says, your past is not your prophecy. The rules are changing. The pace is changing. The outcome is changing. Just because it was hard before does not mean it will be hard again. Just because it took long, then does not mean it will take long now. This is a new season, with new grace, new authority, new speed. A story to show you how suddenly God moves. There was a man who waited years to be free from debt. Every plan failed. Every effort fell short. One day, unexpectedly, a door opened. A solution he never imagined. Within months, what took years to build was erased. He said, I thought I would struggle forever. But once God moved, everything changed at once. God says, this is how I restore. Slow suffering, sudden freedom. You are standing at the edge of the sudden. God says you are being positioned, not pushed. This acceleration will not feel forced. You won't feel rushed or pressured. You won't feel overwhelmed. You will feel guided. God says, I am placing you where you need to be before you even realize why. You'll find yourself in the right place at the right time with the right people. And later you'll understand that God arranged it all quietly. This will happen so fast that you'll only recognize it afterward. God says, the door's coming. Next requires speed. Some blessings cannot wait. If delayed, they are missed. That's why God says, I am moving you quickly. You are stepping into opportunities that require immediate action, quick obedience, and bold faith. This is why God has been sharpening your discernment. This is why He strengthened your confidence. This is why He trained you in patience first. Now He says, trust me and move. God says, your confidence will rise as fast as your blessing. You worry that sudden change will expose weakness, that speed will reveal insecurity. But God says, I give confidence with calling. As your life accelerates, your courage will grow. Your clarity will increase. Your peace will stabilize you. You will not break under speed. You will thrive in it. God says, do not announce, allow. You don't need to explain what God is doing. You don't need to defend your progress. You don't need to convince anyone. God says, let results speak. The change will be obvious. The blessing will be visible. The shift will be undeniable. This will happen so fast that explanations won't matter. God says this is why you had to wait. Now you understand why God delayed, why He said not yet, why He closed doors earlier. If He had moved sooner, you wouldn't have been ready. But now you are stable. You are grounded. You are wise. You are aligned. God says, that is why I can move fast now. Final message for part 3. My child, you are stepping into divine speed. What I am doing now will not take long. The delay is over. The movement has begun. Doors will open quickly. Clarity will come suddenly. Progress will be undeniable. Stay close to me, because everything ahead will happen so fast. There is a holy urgency surrounding you now. Not panic, not fear, but movement. Something is shifting in ways you cannot fully see yet, but your spirit already recognizes it. And God speaks clearly today. My child, what I am about to do will not take time. This will happen so fast. Part 4 is where acceleration becomes undeniable. God says the old limits no longer apply for a long time. Your life followed certain rules. Rules created by circumstances, rules shaped by pain, rules enforced by fear, lack, or disappointment. You learn to move carefully, to expect delay, to brace yourself for disappointment, to prepare for what if it doesn't work. But God says those limits were temporary. They were training wheels. They were not your destiny. This is a new season, and the rules are changing. What used to be difficult will now become simple. What used to resist you will now respond to you. What used to require effort will now require alignment. This will happen so fast that your old thinking will struggle to keep up. God says, I am moving you out of survival mode. You have been surviving for a long time. Not dreaming, surviving. Not expanding, surviving. Not thriving, surviving. You learned how to endure, how to stay strong, how to carry weight quietly. But God says, survival is not where you are going. You are stepping into a season of living, of breathing again, of enjoying again, of building again, of expecting good again. This transition will feel sudden because you are not easing into it. God is lifting you out of survival and placing you directly into provision. This will happen so fast that your nervous system will need time to realize you are safe now. God says what felt heavy will suddenly feel light. There are burdens you carried for years, emotional weight, mental pressure, responsibility you never asked for. You assumed this weight was permanent. You thought, this is just how life is. But God says that weight was seasonal, and the season is ending. One day soon you will wake up and realize you are not as tired as you used to be. Your thoughts will be calmer. your heart will be steadier. Your spirit will feel lighter, not because nothing happened, but because God stepped in. This relief will not be gradual, it will be noticeable. This will happen so fast that you will stop midday and think, why do I feel different? God says, I am removing the need to prove yourself. You spent too much time explaining, justifying, proving your intentions, proving your worth, proving your loyalty, proving your ability. But God says, I am done with that chapter. In the season ahead, you will not need to convince anyone. Your presence will speak, your peace will speak, your results will speak. People will understand without explanation, and this shift will happen fast. Because when God elevates someone, he removes the need for validation. A story to help you see this clearly. There was a runner who trained for years with heavy weights tied to his ankles. He built endurance. He built strength. He learned discipline. One day his coach removed the weights. The runner barely touched the ground. His speed shocked him. He said, I didn't know I could move like this. The coach replied, you always could. You were just training under pressure. God says to you, the weights are coming off. And when they do, you will move faster than you ever imagined. God says, this is why the shift feels uncomfortable. Acceleration always feels strange at first. When God speeds things up, your mind tries to catch up with your spirit. You may feel moments of disbelief, moments of emotional confusion, moments where you ask, is this really happening? God says, yes, and it is happening because you are ready. Discomfort does not mean danger, it means expansion. Your life is stretching beyond what it used to hold. This will happen so fast that growth will feel immediate. God says, what you couldn't fix, I am fixing quickly. You tried to fix things yourself, relationships, situations, patterns, cycles. Some things didn't respond to effort. They needed intervention. God says, step back, I am handling what you couldn't. When God intervenes, he does not struggle, he resolves, he rearranges, he releases, and he does it swiftly. Expect sudden answers, unexpected solutions, unplanned resolutions. This will happen so fast that you won't have time to worry. God says, your next season requires decisiveness. Because things are moving quickly now, hesitation will feel heavier than action. God says, trust your discernment. You will know what to say yes to. You will know what to walk away from. You will know when to move. You will know when to rest. The confusion of the past will not follow you. Clarity will arrive at the same speed as opportunity. God says, this is not random. It is aligned. Do not dismiss this season as luck. Do not minimize it as coincidence. God says, this is alignment. Your obedience aligned you. Your patience aligned you. Your healing aligned you. Your letting go aligned you. Now the results are aligning too. And alignment always produces acceleration. God says, you will adjust quickly. You fear that fast change will overwhelm you. But God says, you will adapt faster than you think. You will grow into the blessing. You will rise with the responsibility. You will carry what I place in your hands. Grace moves at the same speed as favor. You will not fall behind your miracle. Final message for part 4. My child, you are no longer confined by your past pace. I am removing the weight. I am lifting the limits. I am shifting your position. What once felt impossible will soon feel normal. Do not resist the speed. Walk with me. Because what I am doing now will not take long. This will happen so fast. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not missing anything. You are standing at the edge of a moment where God moves with speed, the kind of speed that makes waiting seasons make sense. And today, God speaks with calm authority. My child, stay steady. What I am about to do will happen so fast. Part 5 is where clarity meets courage. God says, this is why you had to become still before acceleration. There is alignment. Before speed, there is steadiness. Before movement, there is grounding. That's why God slowed you down before he speeds you up. He taught you to listen. He taught you to discern. He taught you to say no. He taught you to wait without bitterness. He taught you to trust without control. God says, I needed your spirit calm so you wouldn't panic when I move quickly. because fast blessings require a steady heart. God says, you will not miss this moment. You feared missing your chance. You feared making the wrong move. You feared being unprepared when opportunity came. But God says, I will not allow you to miss what is meant for you. This opportunity will not sneak past you. It will not depend on luck. It will not require perfect timing on your part. God will make it obvious, clear, direct, unavoidable. This will happen so fast that hesitation won't have time to interfere. God says the right people are moving toward you. You don't have to chase alignment. You don't have to force connection. You don't have to prove your value. God says, I am sending the right people to you. People who recognize your spirit. People who respect your boundaries. People who support your growth. People who speak life, not confusion. People who move at your new pace. And when they arrive, it will feel natural, not forced, not draining, not confusing. This alignment will happen quickly because God removes delay when hearts are ready. God says, you are moving from pressure to precision. In the past, everything felt urgent but unclear. You rushed but doubted. You moved but questioned. You tried but felt uncertain. But God says, this season is different. Now your steps will be precise, your decisions will be clean. Your movements will be intentional, speed without confusion, momentum without chaos. This is divine precision, and it will feel right. A story to help you see what God is doing. There was an archer who trained for years. He practiced in silence, missed targets, adjusted his stance, refined his breath. One day he entered a competition. When it was his turn, he didn't rush. He drew the bow calmly and released. The arrow flew swiftly and hit the center instantly. People thought it was luck, but the archer knew. Years of preparation created one moment of speed. God says, your life is that arrow. What looks fast to others is simply the result of preparation they never saw. God says, do not apologize for your moment when things change quickly. People may question you. They may say, you changed. You're moving fast. Why now? But God says, you do not owe explanations for answered prayers. You do not need permission to grow. You do not need approval to rise. You do not need validation to obey God. This is your season, and it will move fast whether others understand it or not. God says, you will trust yourself again. For a long time, you doubted your judgment, second-guessed your instincts, questioned your decisions. But God says, I am restoring your confidence. As things align quickly, you will trust what you sense. You will trust what you know. You will trust what feels right. Confidence will rise at the same speed as opportunity. You will move decisively, not impulsively. God says the next step will be clear. You don't need the full plan. You don't need every detail. You don't need certainty about everything. God says you only need the next step. And that step will be clear, not confusing, not heavy, not overwhelming, clear enough to move, clear enough to trust, clear enough to act. This will happen so fast that clarity and action will meet at the same time. God says, what felt unstable will become secure. You lived too long feeling uncertain, unsure about direction, unsure about support, unsure about outcomes. But God says, I am establishing you, emotionally, spiritually, practically. You will feel grounded again. You will feel supported again. You will feel safe to move forward again. And this sense of stability will come suddenly, not gradually. God says, do not rush, but do not resist. Acceleration does not mean panic. Speed does not mean force. God says, move when I say move. Rest when I say rest. Stay present. Stay prayerful. Stay attentive. When it's time to act, you'll know. And when you act, things will unfold quickly. God says this season will redefine your normal. What once felt rare will become regular. What once felt hard will become manageable. What once felt impossible will become routine. This is not a peak. It's a new baseline. And it will arrive faster than your old mindset expects. Final message for part 5. My child, you are aligned. You are ready. You are steady. What I am releasing now will not require struggle. It will not create confusion. It will not take long. Move with confidence. Trust the pace. Stay close to me, because everything ahead is unfolding with speed. This will happen so fast. Something is different now. Not loud, not chaotic, but unmistakable. You feel a quiet urgency, not fear, not pressure, but readiness. And God speaks gently yet firmly. My child, stay alert. What I am doing now will happen so fast. Part 6 is where momentum turns into movement. God says you are stepping into a window of divine timing. There are moments that cannot be recreated, windows that open briefly, opportunities that appear once. God says you are entering a window that has been prepared for you. This is not about rushing. This is about recognizing. Recognizing when to say yes. Recognizing when to step forward. Recognizing when to let go without looking back. The window is opening now. And when God opens a window, He also gives the grace to step through it. This will happen so fast that discernment will matter more than deliberation. God says you will feel a strong push to act. You've been calm, centered, steady, but suddenly you'll feel a push. An inner knowing that says, now, do it now. God says, that pushes me. Not anxiety, not impulse, not pressure from people. Divine prompting. When it comes, don't overthink it. Don't delay. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Obedience in this season unlocks immediate movement. God says, the pace is changing, so must your response. What worked in slower seasons will not work now. God says, this season requires responsiveness, not haste, but readiness. Be available, be flexible, be attentive. Because when God accelerates, He does not send advance notices. He moves and invites you to move with Him. This will happen so fast that hesitation will feel heavier than action. God says, the confirmations will come after the step. In the past, you waited for signs before moving. But God says in this season, the sign follows the step. You move, then clarity comes. You obey, then peace settles. You trust, then confirmation appears. This is not confusion. This is faith at a higher level, and God will not let you stumble. A story to show you how faith meets speed. There was a man standing at the edge of a river. He waited for the water to part. He waited for certainty. He waited for safety. But the river did not move. Then God said, step in. The moment his foot touched the water, the current shifted. The path appeared after the step. God says, that is how I am leading you now. Not reckless, but responsive. God says, this is why I remove distractions. Things that once demanded your attention no longer hold it. Old habits lost appeal. Old conversations feel empty. Old attachments feel heavy. God says, I cleared your focus so you could recognize speed. When life moves fast, distractions become dangerous. That's why God simplified your world before He accelerated it. God says, expect quick shifts in multiple areas. This is not a single change. It's a chain reaction. When one thing moves, another follows. Expect shifts in your schedule, your priorities, your connections, your direction, your opportunities, your confidence. Not because things are unstable, but because they are aligning. This will happen so fast that your life may look different within a short span of time. God says, do not be surprised by sudden favor. Favor is not random. It is recognition from heaven. God says, I am causing the right people to notice you. Not because you chased attention, but because alignment attracts visibility. Someone will advocate for you. Someone will open a door. Someone will say your name at the right time. And it will feel effortless. This is acceleration through favor. God says, your old fears will not survive this season. Fear thrives in uncertainty, but clarity is coming. As things begin to move, your old fears will feel outdated. You'll realize, I'm not who I used to be. God says, I have strengthened you quietly. You will face new opportunities with calm confidence. Speed will not overwhelm you, it will energize you. God says, stay humble, stay open, stay moving. Acceleration does not mean pride. Favor does not mean independence. God says, stay connected to me. Pray before you move. Listen as you walk. Rest when I say rest. This pace requires intimacy, not independence. God says, you will see results quickly. Not everything, but enough to know you are on the right path. Small confirmations will appear quickly. Peace will settle quickly. Momentum will build quickly. God uses early results to strengthen your faith for greater things ahead. God says, do not look back to measure progress. Your past pace is not the standard anymore. Do not compare this season to the last one. God says, I have increased your capacity. What once felt fast will now feel normal. Final message for part 6. My child, you are in divine motion now. The window is open. The prompting is clear. The path will appear as you move. Stay alert. Stay obedient. Stay close to me. Because what I am doing will not slow down. This will happen so fast. You may not realize it yet, but something has already changed. Not outside of you, inside of you. Your spirit is no longer waiting. Your heart is no longer questioning. Your soul is no longer confused. And God says with quiet authority, my child, you are ready now. That is why things are about to move so fast. Part 7 is where readiness meets release. God says, you have crossed an invisible line. There are lines in the spirit world that don't show up in your calendar, don't announce themselves loudly, don't come with celebration, but once crossed, nothing stays the same. God says, you crossed that line, the line between almost and now, between preparation and permission, between waiting and movement. That is why your prayers feel different. That is why your faith feels steadier. That is why your fear has less power. This is not imagination. This is transition. And transitions, when led by God, happen quickly. God says, what once required effort will now require alignment. You used to push. You used to try harder. You used to force outcomes. You used to carry the weight of results. But God says, that season is over. In this season, you won't win by effort. You'll win by alignment. Being in the right place, saying yes at the right time, listening instead of rushing, moving when I say move. That is why things will happen fast, because alignment removes resistance. God says, you are no longer being tested, you are being trusted. Tests take time. Trust releases speed. God says, I tested you in the slow season. You were tested with silence, tested with delay, tested with disappointment, tested with uncertainty. You didn't quit. You didn't harden. You didn't turn bitter. You stayed open. Now God says, I trust you, and trust changes everything. When God trusts someone, he moves faster with them. God says, expect sudden clarity about people. Some confusion you carried was never about situations. It was about people, mixed signals, unclear intentions, emotional uncertainty. But God says, clarity is coming suddenly. You will know who to keep. You will know who to release. You will know who is aligned. You will know who is only seasonal. This clarity will not come through conflict. It will come through peace. And once clarity arrives, movement accelerates. A story to show you what God is doing now. There was a ship sitting in a harbor for years, fully built, fully capable, fully ready. The problem wasn't the ship, it was the tide. One day the tide rose suddenly, without effort, without force, without struggle. The ship moved out to sea. God says, you are the ship. The tide is rising now. Nothing was wrong with you before. It just wasn't time. Now it is. And when the tide rises, movement happens fast. God says, you will not have to convince anyone in the past. You tried to explain yourself. You tried to make people understand your heart. You tried to justify your decisions. But God says, in this season, understanding will not be required. When God moves quickly, explanations become unnecessary. People will see the fruit. They will see the change. They will see the alignment. And silence will replace arguments. God says, what you couldn't plan will fall into place. You tried planning, strategizing, preparing for every outcome. But God says, some things can only be arranged by me. unexpected connections, unexpected timing, unexpected opportunities, unexpected help. You won't see them coming, but once they arrive, you'll realize they fit perfectly. This will happen so fast that you'll understand why planning had to stop. God says, your emotions will catch up to your blessing. At first, your mind may lag behind the miracle. You may think, is this real? Is this actually happening? But God says, give your heart time to adjust. Sudden goodness takes time to settle into. Fast peace feels unfamiliar at first. Quick provision can feel unreal. But soon, joy will feel natural again. Peace will feel normal again. Hope will feel safe again. God says, the old version of you cannot keep up anymore. You have changed. Old reactions don't fit. Old habits don't feel right. Old fears don't convince you anymore. God says that is because speed exposes identity. The faster things move, the less room there is for pretending. You are walking as who you truly are now, and that alignment creates acceleration. God says you will receive confirmation through results. You won't need signs. You won't need repeated reassurance. You won't need constant validation. Results will speak. Doors opening, peace staying, provision flowing, clarity remaining. God says, I confirm through fruit, and fruit grows fast when the season is right. God says this is not the peak, it is the beginning. Do not think this is a moment to pause. God says, this is momentum. One breakthrough leads to another. One open door leads to the next. One step reveals the path ahead. This pace will not exhaust you, it will carry you. Final message for part 7. My child, you are trusted, you are aligned, you are ready. I am no longer preparing you. I am releasing you. Do not fear the speed. Do not doubt the timing. Do not question the movement. Stay with me, because from here, everything begins to flow. This will happen so fast. Something unmistakable is happening now. Not loud, not dramatic, but decisive. The kind of shift that doesn't ask permission. The kind of movement that doesn't wait for comfort. The kind of change that only happens when heaven has already agreed. And God says to you today, my child, from this point forward, things will begin to happen faster than you expected. Part 8 is where momentum turns into manifestation. God says, what you start now will not stall in the past. You hesitated to begin because you feared getting stuck halfway. You feared losing momentum. You feared another unfinished chapter, but God says that fear no longer applies. The ground beneath you is different now. The resistance has been removed. The timing is right. What you start in this season will not stall. It will not pause. It will not collapse. Once you move, things will keep moving. This will happen so fast that you'll wonder why it ever felt hard before. God says you are stepping into a flow you did not create. You didn't force this alignment. You didn't manipulate timing. You didn't make this happen on your own. God says, this is my flow. A flow where doors open naturally, where conversations lead somewhere, where effort produces results, where peace stays even when pace increases. This is not hustle. This is harmony. And harmony creates speed without exhaustion. God says expect quick replacements for what you lost. You lost things that mattered to you. Time, energy, people, opportunities, confidence. But God says, I do not replace slowly. What left your life created space. What ended made room. Now God is filling that space with better alignment, healthier connections, stronger provision, deeper peace. This replacement will not take long. This will happen so fast that you'll realize the loss was actually preparation. God says, you will feel leady, not pushed. Acceleration does not mean pressure. If you feel pressured, it is not God. God says, my leading brings peace, even when the pace increases. You will know when to move because it will feel right. You will know when to wait because peace will hold you there. There will be no panic, no confusion, no regret, just steady movement with increasing speed. A story to show you what this season looks like. There was a musician who practiced alone for years. No audience, no recognition, no reward. Then one day, someone heard him play. Within months, doors opened. Invitations came. His name traveled faster than he ever could have. People said, "You became successful overnight." But the musician knew the truth. Nothing happened overnight. It was released overnight. God says, "That is what I am doing with you." Releasing what has been ready. God says, "You will no longer need to over-explain yourself. Your decisions will make sense even if people don't understand them." God says, "You are moving by discernment now." When alignment leads, explanations become optional. Those meant to walk with you will recognize the shift. Those who don't will naturally fall away. This separation will not be painful. It will be clean, and it will happen quickly. God says your energy will change first before circumstances fully shift. Your energy will. You'll wake up lighter, more hopeful, more present, less reactive. God says that is your spirit adjusting to speed. When acceleration is coming, your soul prepares first. Peace increases, confidence stabilizes, focus sharpens. Your inner world is catching up to what God is doing externally. God says you will see small signs very quickly. God does not leave you guessing. He says, "I will confirm this season early." Small wins, clear signals, encouraging moments, unexpected support. Not everything at once, but enough to know you are on the right path. These signs will come quickly to strengthen your faith for greater movement ahead. God says, stop looking for permission to rise. You don't need approval. You don't need consensus. You don't need validation. God says, "I already said yes." When heaven approves, earth eventually follows. Move with confidence. Move with humility. Move with awareness. But move. God says, this speed will not burn you out. You've associated speed with exhaustion because of past experiences. But God says, my speed carries grace. You will not feel depleted. You will not feel overwhelmed. You will not feel lost. You will feel supported, strengthened, clear. Grace moves at the same pace as favor.